It's a BumbleKast Mini, sponsored by Dominic the Raccoon.
One of my favorite aspects of the IDW comics is that they're the first time in ages we've seen how life is on Sonic's Earth, outside of Loops and Eggman. Are there certain elements you'd still like to explore regarding that world, action-related or not?
I would like us to eventually see the human side of things and do at least a cursory glance of where the crossover is between the two peoples, two cultures, whatever, just to have it there. Rip the Band-Aid off. People are part of Sonic. There they are. Done. Good. Because right now we're kind of dancing around the subject, and that's tiresome. But otherwise, I wouldn't want to super define it too much, because I like having that open-ended, light approach to it. Because once you start getting more and more defined with your cultural identities, that's a whole new set of rules that you need to follow and keep track of. And that's not what Sonic is. Sonic is not Mass Effect. Sonic is Sonic. Sonic is running to new locations and seeing new sights and keeping on the move, meeting new people, solving their problems, and then moving on. As enticing as it is to get into the geopolitical socioeconomics of his world, we don't necessarily need to do that.
No. Eggman has the Eggmobile, Bowser has the clown car, and Wily has the Wily UFO. How would these iconic video game villains react to each other's flying machines?
Poorly, because they're jerks.
They wouldn't have an appreciation at all?
No, you'd have Eggman and Wily making fun of the clown car looking so childish.
I mean, have you seen some of Wily's UFO things? They're not exactly like classy either.
You'd have Eggman and Bowser just pointing out how blah and pedestrian a UFO is. Ooh, a flying saucer. How original. You can't even dress like a gray to make it, thematic. Oh, you had the hologram that one time. What the hell, man? What are you doing? And then you get Bowser and Wily making fun of Eggman going, yeah, he really does look like a giant egg. How you doing, Ivo, flying around in your egg cup?
Wow. Amazing. Glad they called him Ivo. Eggman's like, nobody calls me that anymore. Magic doesn't exist on Sonic's Earth, unless we're talking about mystical rocks, occult artifacts, the occasional deity, or a pocket universe hiding away in a book. Is this something you'd want changed in some particular way, even if it's just minor?
Yeah. I'd like to remove the whole idea that it doesn't exist and just make it rare. I do understand the criteria of it doesn't exist, that you don't open the door to just straight up bippity boppity boo magic. Like what we have right now is magic, let's be honest, but it's kind of borderline science fantasy. Like the Chaos Emeralds, their power is miraculous. It is unexplained scientifically, but it isn't necessarily mystical. You could make an argument that stuff like Dark Gaia is just a strange life form of incredible power that has magical properties. I mean, it's really splitting hairs, but I think what they want to do is they want to avoid going full magical fantasy, because that it sounds weird, but it is a little harder to wrangle that than mysterious science fantasy elements. Because once you say it's magic, then pretty much all the restraints go off. And then you have to really think about your magic system so it doesn't just become a big game of Calvin Ball. It already is to a degree, what with your magic books and gyms and whatnot. So just imagine that without any other guidelines to it. So saying magic just isn't a thing, I think is silly, but I do understand why we're coloring inside those particular lines.
Amy is already a magical girl. The only thing she's missing is the transformation sequence. It's like the only thing. Give her that and it will be absolutely 100%. She will be a magical girl. And frankly, I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. I think the world is ready. We need that. We need that. I'm assuming the no magic rule is why Witchcart uses a wand with a gem on it during her appearance in the comics. Would there be other magical enthusiasts like her out there? Witch hats are pretty fun, not gonna lie.
This is true. And yeah, like in the Tales special, made a point of saying, she's shooting beams out of her wand, not magic.
Magic beams.
People are being turned into crystal by her power, not by magic spells. So it's
Magic power.
A fine line to walk. I wouldn't want to necessarily bring in another wand user because one, that's already Witchcart's shtick, and she barely gets any screen time as it is. And two, that just kind of puts more spotlight on the issue. If it's just Witchcart being this weird one-off, you can kind of smile and go, yeah, okay, sure. Not magic, wink, wink. But if you have like another magic user throwing around magic with a wand, then it's like, okay, come on now. It's right there. Just call a spade a spade.
You know what?
So you're kind of avoiding the issue.
You know what, Ian, though? You know what? You say that having it only once means that it would be, you could like overlook it. But here's the thing. Sonic cracked open a book and ended up magically transporting to another world twice. 2 times. I could forgive the first time, but it happened twice.
But that's in the context of a book. It's not.
A book is not magic.
World, it's the book rules.
A book is not magic. Normally, I mean, maybe it feels magic, but the book has to be magic in order to do that. Science can't explain that. You can't explain that. Tide goes in, tide goes out.
I can't refute that. I can't argue. I will let you have it.
In Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, there's a yacht-type extreme gear called a magic broom, and it looks like how you'd expect. According to the description, it once belonged to a mischievous witch. Although certainly not the intention, let's say the Witchcarters were extreme gear enthusiasts. What sort of interactions do you imagine between them and the Babylon Rogues?
In my mind, that's basically what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a group of villains flying around on specialized flying devices. That's the Babylon Rogues in a nutshell. And given all the personalities involved, it would be antagonistic. But of the two, I would almost say that you could cast the Rogues as the more noble of the two groups. Because sure, they're cheating, antagonistic thieves and jerks, but they live by their own code and are seeking out the mysteries of their heritage. Whereas the Witchcarters are just goons working for a crazy lady.
What's wrong with that? You need a job sometimes. Gotta have something to do.
Behringer complaining about the gig economy.
There's no money and it still sucks. Bit of a grim one. When the Super Genesis wave obliterated time and space, history was changed and characters were deleted forever. Well, you also have Muskie and Anklet becoming Mobians. That's left me thinking, doesn't that mean that some Mobians got turned into feral animals? Oh no, Ian and Lilia attended Bunny and Antoine's wedding. Is that what happened to them? Oh boy.
No, chalk this up to don't think too hard about it.
No.
This was, I created Anklet so we could bring him back, and why not do it in a fun new way? And we want to give something back to the readers who have been with the series for so long, so Muskie survives, but, Sonic having a pet dog is weird, so there he's a Mobian, and he works with Uncle Chuck.
Is it really that weird, though? Like, why couldn't, normal animalistic dogs exist alongside, Mobian dogs?
They do, but it's still weird.
I guess. Whatever.
I mean, it's weird. It's weird that we have talking animals real world animals and small animals all coexisting. That's just...
Do you think Pluto is weird from Mickey's dog Pluto?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Given the vast number of civilizations populated by goofy dog people, Pluto being a dog is just weird. And by extension, so is Fifi.
Yeah, well. Given how loopy some paths or roads are in the Sonic universe, how bad do you think the traffic can be for non-speedsters?
I imagine that in the context of this world is just natural. So I would kind of compare it to going to a new city that you're not used to driving in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I grew up in Charlotte, which is nothing compared to Toronto, which is nothing compared to New York. So riding around in New York City traffic, they're barbarians. I don't understand how there aren't just multiple casualties every minute and how insane it is. But traveling around with a local, and they're like, traffic in New York is more like a living thing. You just go with the flow.
Right.
It's like, I am gripping the seat white knuckle as we're whipping through intersections and horns are blaring and people are walking in between vehicles going, how do people live like this? But to them, it's perfectly natural. When I first moved to Toronto, learning to drive around inner city and get onto these highways much larger than had any experience with, extremely stressful. I really don't like downtown driving still, especially at night. But I compared myself now to how I was then, and I have acclimatized to it. I am a more aggressive driver now, and I understand how traffic works around here. I've gotten into that cadence. So in Sonic's world, yeah, doing the exit 25 loop-to-loop is just part of your daily commute. It's that jerk who drops out of the top of the loop and to get ahead of the traffic on the bottom swing that's just the idiot. Why don't the cops pull them over?
I'm being asked what the Bumble Whip is.
Bumble Whip?
Your car.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. What is
it a whip?
What is your car? It's called a whip. Just go with it.
All right.
Don't worry about it.
You children in your slang terms. The current Bumble car is a 2020 Toyota Corolla.
Nice. Alrighty. Well, don't wreck that.
Oh, no.
Yes. All right. In the Persona series, a shadow self is the aspect of a person that is unconsciously repressed. Typically, the traits the real person is ashamed of, which make the confrontations difficult. Tails' Cybercage experience was kind of similar, funnily enough, so excluding the fox, who in the Sonic cast would be the most interesting to tackle this concept with, and why?
Tails might be the front runner, because most of the Sonic cast is extremely comfortable with who they are. Like, Knuckles' misgivings are slight, and he powers through them with bravado. Sonic is extremely comfortable with who he is. You could maybe do a bit of a case study with Amy, looking back at where she's been and who she's become. But everybody else is just kind of good with who they are.
What about Whisper?
Whisper isn't ashamed of who she is. She's just moved on from it. Like, if she were to be forced to confront her happier, more gregarious self, if anything, she would feel kind of pity, because she knows that what it is that kills that side of her. But it's not shame, I don't think.
All right. What about Surge?
Sure, Surge has no shame.
Yeah, but she's certainly got baggage.
Yeah, and that's hers. Why are you looking at
it? Okay, fine.
You want to make her have deep thoughts and feelings? She'll kill you right now.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorite shows ever is Once Upon a Time, which involved fairy tale characters cursed and banished to our world. As part of the premise, the cursed characters usually forget their original lives and were assigned ironic ones. As an example, Jiminy Cricket was made into a human therapist that was pressured to avoid following his own conscience, and Prince Charming was in a coma. Picking any Sonic characters you'd want, are there any fates you could imagine for the cast?
Knuckles is a security guard. at a mineral museum where he also has to act as tour guide and greeter.
All right. What about what is Tails doing?
Tails is the CEO of an extremely successful tech company that blew up overnight. He has achieved everything he could possibly want to before he finishes puberty, but he's all alone. He has no friends, he has no mentors, he has no social network. It has all been creation and success.
Mm-hmm. What about Jewel? Exactly the same.
She runs the mineral museum that Knuckles is security guard of. Sorry, Jewel, you're too mundane.
And she can't afford to own any of the jewelry that she wants or anything. Or maybe that's Rouge.
Rouge is an archaeologist who is finding lost treasures from antiquity and returning them to said museum, never to actually possess them herself.
Mm-hmm. And Eggman?
Eggman runs a circus. He runs an actual theme park. He is the ringmaster. He is the main showman, and he's just living the life. But he has to, appease the shareholders and make sure everyone is happy. And he lives the mantra of you can't please all the people all the time, but he's kind of contractually obligated to try.
Yeah. That works. All right, and we got a few more questions. These come up from Dominic's friend, Fiery Flammable Flare. To Ian, what qualities do you find captivating in a villain, and how do you incorporate those personal tastes into the material you work with?
I like a villain that's charismatic, one that you love to hate and hate to love. The one that just kind of steals all the air once they enter the room. That they don't necessarily have to be big and bombastic. Like one of the first things that pops into mind is Gul Dukat from Deep Space Nine. Like, he just had a presence. And they also need to want something, to aspire for something. And it can be petty, it can be grandiose, but it's what they're driven by to the detriment of all others, possibly even themselves. Because that kind of drive is engaging. You want to see their struggle to achieve what they want, but it is also rife with conflict, whether it's against those who it would harm or how it is defeating for themselves or whatever the context is, so that they can operate almost in a vacuum. Not necessarily their own worst enemy, because that can get tiresome, but that they are extremely dynamic in how they interact with the plot.
Mm-hmm. All right. If given the opportunity, what aspect or character from the Mario series would you be most interested in exploring and expanding upon in a story?
Call me an old school fanboy, but I want a Geno spinoff.
You would.
Like, his action figure was based off of something, right? He was the star entity chose it because it looked the coolest and most powerful. What is the franchise that Geno is from within the Mario universe?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or even better, some new peril attacks Star Road and Geno has to come back to do cool things. Like, just give me my Geno spinoff, man.
Well, I think Dominic would appreciate it, considering he does have a strong fandom of the Mario RPG games. So I think you've given him his money's worth, I hope. And also his friend. And our last question, Chip's commentary on the Werehog indicates that Sonic remains in control of himself thanks to his goodwill and nobility. So what would happen if someone less pure of heart experienced Sonic's darker transformations, like the Werehog curse or Darkspine form?
Part of it is a question of would they be able to even transform? Like, we've seen other people influenced by Dark Gaia energy, and they lose their inhibitions and kind of go cut loose during the night. It's played super tame, which, children's series, that makes sense. But it could be played in a different direction where, they can't handle that kind of thing. And Sonic's transformation is him withstanding it. His soul could not be corrupted, so his physical form took the burden. Also, quick aside, in the scene I'm thinking of from Unleashed, Amy isn't corrupted at all. So what does that say about her character?
Yeah, I know, but it would be really cool to see Werehog Amy.
Oh, it absolutely would.
I've seen a few fan designs that are just freaking sweet of Werehog Amy, so yeah.
I just want to see a Werehog shadow, because that would be badass. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there's cool designs of that too, but yeah. Amy, I want to see. Yes.
And Darkspine was generated by arguably the more negative world rings. So again, is it a matter of Sonic is able to incorporate this corruptive power and still retain himself? Or is it more of a surface level thing? Like if anybody else was hit with that much negative reality altering power, would they just kind of implode? So I guess the broader question is, are Sonic's transformations a result of the energy that he's working with, or is it a testament to his own strength where his inner self is not fully corrupted and thus his body responds to take on the stress of it?
It's a fascinating thing we will probably never get the answer to.
Well, I mean, we just need to hit him with some other dark MacGuffin and see what happens.
All right. Well, I mean, you're the one who could do that. I can't do it. You're the one who could, not me. Don't look at me. I'm just here. Although soon we will not be here.
Because we're done with the episode. Nothing more dire than that, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Thank you to Dominic Raccoon for sponsoring this BumbleKast Mini. If you want one of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a YouTube member. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.